Oh, wait a minute. That is Denzel.
Tribute to Common Peace in War Terms. This is part 2 to Introduction to Kinoo and Noone Science. And we're going to continue where we left off with Amun. Amun means hidden and Ra means to see. I, Jutah, and Satuna are spirit gases, sons of lesser degrees. We are Amun, hidden in plain sight as planets but not recognized as suns. Only Noone Science is this known. Listen to reason. The human form is the favorite form of the god Hu, the ancient god of utterance. Therefore, the human figure is that of the pigment gods and goddesses of the top half of the smart circular order during the time that the top half exists. Hence, people and apes basically evolve away from the human form, which is somewhat round, like figures, toward a lesser figure, which is a straight or wavy line. In other words, evolution of persons, apes, and things is not towards the human and round forms, but toward the serpent forms. The word human is a variant of the word Hamun. It is a variant of the word Amun, also called Amen and Amen, or Amen. The ancient god Amun was always shown in the form similar to those of the flesh and blood gods of the top half of the order circle. Hence, we get the word human, or Haman, and the figure human. The name Hu is another name for the god Amun or Hamun. Human beings had to be evolving from one form and towards another. We were evolving from the human form, the pigment gods and goddesses form, toward the serpent form, and we humans would develop tails like other animals if we were to evolve much further in time. Animals have tails resembling the serpent because they are modified forms of the serpent, physically and also spiritually. Of course, the tails of animals are beneficial to them as insect repellents, balancing factors, and protecting covers of their rectums, and so on. Wherever possible during evolution, all persons and things evolve toward the straight and wavy lines, just as all persons and things during revolution, wherever possible, must revolve toward the oval and round line as the revolution cycle progresses. Let it be remembered, always let it be known. Introduction to the Nature, Book 2, pages 120 to 121. Listen to sound right. Jutah's reason. I, Jutah, am the god Hu Amun in these quotes, and also called Amun Ra, Amun, and Amen as well, which means Amun Ra is a female, not male. The sun gods, individual spirit powers, are the true stars of the universes, and they are counted together with their consort goddesses. The sun god on planet Earth is called by various names by various people in different ethnic races by the names Ra, Re, Amun Ra, Re Harakti, Uranus, Tar, Jupiter, Helios, Horus, Elyon, Brahma, Phoebus, Dama, Elah. Nature, Book 2, page 146 in part. So this is a separation. So you say true stars right? And then it separates that, and then it says sun god. So there's a difference between true stars and a sun god. All right, it's not talking about the spirit sun god because it's using the names of what a planet here, which is a sun as well. So a sun god in this quote is talking about Jupiter and also Saturn or Saturn, because both of those orbs are made up of hydrogen and helium. All right. I, Utah, am responsible for the shaping of the pygmy god's descendants in 8-man into the present human form. I, Utah, am the goddess of utterance, who in ancient Kemet, Egypt. Here is the geometrical proof. You have Jupiter with all 9s. Who Amun human, all 9s. You can see the 45 here, also in the reverse 54, but you see the 9s. This is why there's a connection between my ancient name, Hu Amun, and the word human. We, Satuna and myself, made it known yesterday at 6/25/2022 that we, the Ennead 9 orbs, are with Satuna, Jutah, Kinoo, NoopooH, always meaning mentally, spiritually, and physically. Listen to my Jutah's reason and more physical visual proof. It was I, Jutah, Amun Ray, Amun Ra, Hu Amun, that caused my nephew, Tar Kinoo NoopooH, to write 2 books bearing my Jutah's name as far back as 2008 and 2009 AD under the name Brother J, Consul Ray, and one of NoopooH. Let this be known. So those of you who remember when I was writing back then, you remember this book right here, The Return of Amun Ray, written by Hu Amun Ray. See, I didn't know that was her back then. I just knew that I was being mentally urged to title this book this way. So it's there you go, see? Inspired by Afro Unu, who I thought was Dr. York at the time. So that's why Dr. York is in that bracket at the time. And this other book, look at it, Amun Ray and Consul Ray are what? One. By one of NoopooH. That's the name I was going by. Inspired by Cypher M. NoopooH, Afro Unu, Dr. York. Listen to Jutah's sound right reasoning. Our nephew Tar Kinoo NoopooH was not aware that we, the Ennead 9 orbs, had chosen him, and that I, Jutah, Hu Amun Ray, had begun upgrading his mentality slowly. Even though he did not know Dwight York, Dr. York, was not Afro Unu, Johnny Eugene Brown, we eventually made those corrections and guided him and others to discover the facts eventually. The blame for that deception lies on us, the Ennead 9 orbs, and we have settled that issue with more than enough proof. There should be no senseless debates about who wrote what, being that we, NoopooH, and us orbs, and our spirits, and the humans, Afro Unu and Tar Kinoo, are the authors together as one in 9 mind. At this point, should be no doubt that Satuna, Jutah, Kinoo, NoopooH is indeed one of us. Genesis chapter 22 in the positive. The tree of life is 9 ether Noone science. Listen to reason. Anything short of this mission and its completion by Afro Unu means disaster, beginning of death and disintegration of planet Earth, and of course the people therein, likewise beginning on those who are now oppressing peoples and polluting and destroying Mother Earth. Side note, it is a fact that Afro Unu did not complete his mission because of his age and time of death, May 3rd, 2011 AD, meaning his mission as the messenger and it being known was interrupted by Dwight York, Dr. York, and his moon cult Nawapi and Sabians. We had to correct that by utilizing Tar Kinoo and his kins at the time to correct that mistake. Thirdly, Afro Unu's Book 3 was delayed being brought out by 2007 when it was a rough draft finish. It still needed to be checked for mistakes, but his health was not good enough to finish it completely. So eventually his wife, Mrs. NoopooH, finished it on the anniversary of his death and distributed it in late 2012-2013 AD. So now it's Jutah, Kinoo, NoopooH's job to finish spread Noone science and his helpers, while we, the Ennead, prepare Afro Upu to rule as he stated in 1968 AD. The moon cycle, which lasted 6,000 years, ended in February 1962. Just before the end of each ruling cycle of nature, a male person is authorized and appointed by the forces of nature to determine and disclose to the people, especially those of his own kind, the hidden past, the changing present, and the ruling future. The moon cycle was the climax and final phase of the evolutionary cycle, which lasted 17,250,000 years. Therefore, since the end of the moon cycle was also the end of the evolutionary cycle, the cycle of mankind, and is now the revolutionary cycle, which means evolutionary reverse, it was necessary for the force of nature to select from among the oppressed a woolly-haired Ethiopian, a descendant of Ptah, and qualify, authorize, and appoint him to manifest the knowledge of and rule the beginning present cycle. Bible Interpreted Explanation, Book 2, Number 4. Listen to sound right cosmic reason. We, the Ennead 9 Orbs, have stated already that Unu will take rulership of Africa in the year 2029 AD at 18 years old. His first incarnation was as the messenger of Almighty Nature. His second one will be as the ruler to kick off how to rule as Africa's first king of the African Noone Kingdom, called Tank for short. Let's continue. And her surrounding, this writer Afro Unu is dedicated and obligated in the name NoopooH and ZuuPoo, the opposites of nature, to represent all the living and the dead in the positive sense and help restore true culture and also world respect to the Ethiopian race. And by doing so, all other human races will benefit knowledge-wise and in their own ways. The scribe of this book is qualified and authorized by absolute nature in the names NoopooH and ZuuPoo to write, circulate, advocate, promulgate, and practice indeed the 9 signs of eternal nature and positiveness known as Noone, the science of the mental resurrection and survival plus well-being. The physical and mental writers Unu and NoopooH of this book reiterate knowledge is correct information. Nature and Nature, Book 1, pages 268 to 269 in part. Side note, notice it says NoopooH is the mental writer and Unu is the physical writer. The original creators of the Soniverses do write. Remember this well. Listen to reason. Of course, the true definition of matter is anything and everything that occupies space. Therefore, when a rational, intelligent person reasons out and analyzes the true definition of matter, he or she cannot help but conclude that matter is the almighty together with space, vacuum, and time continuity. To say almighty matter is to say almighty nature. The one supreme being, the almighty, has countless other lesser natures of various degrees and degrees in the persons of individuals, places, and things. It is so that NoopooH, Nous, is the first creative powers of the all in all and is of higher and highest nature in their different degrees, values, standards, and qualities. Next to the almighty is the mighty NoopooH, the Ethiopian positive powers of nature, and the mighty ZuuPoo, the Ethiopian negative powers of all in all. In the English language, we, the physical and mental writers of the science Noone, call the almighty one supreme being by the name nature. Let it be remembered, always let it be known. Nature and Nature, Book 2, pages 19. Listen to sound right, Jupiter's reason. NoopooH and ZuuPoo are claiming they wrote the nature books together, and the physical forms of NoopooH are the stars, and the physical forms of ZuuPoo are us orbs and our human helpers, Afro Unu and Kinoo NoopooH. Listen to reason. Yet we, the physical and mental and spiritual writers of this book, do verify that like a light bulb, the positive energy of nature would not produce light, mental or physical, without the negative energy, and likewise vice versa. And this is why we know that there is no such thing as some all positive God in the sky is coming to destroy some all negative God or force on earth as religious projects. Nature and Nature, Book 2, pages 252 in part. Listen to sound right reason. What more proof is there needed that Satuna, Jutah, Kinoo, NoopooH is indeed in contact and vice versa? This isn't a game, and being chosen is completely up to us, the Ennead Orbs, not any human beings or spirits. Remember this well. Now that we, Satuna and myself, Jupiter, have made it clear how we do some of the picking and choosing and making our chosen ones use names that show we, Satuna, and myself, Jutah, are present today with our nephew, Kinoo NoopooH. We shall show how we did this with Afro Unu in the 60s and 70s writings. This is the book that he published in 67, Amanubi Rakapata. Like Osiris, Horus was explained as typifying everything good in nature, although the solar meaning of most of the mythological facts was to manifest to be entirely overlooked. The planet Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn were also considered as manifestations of Horus, the red Horus, the brilliant Horus, Horus the bull. So here we see Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, and they was depicted in ancient Kemet as Horus. And you see that's why he has the big sun over his head, because that's what they really are. They are suns, and the bird represent being in the air. The New International Encyclopedia, 2nd edition, volume 11, New York Dart, Mead, 1915 entry, Horus, page 496. The name Horus was not only linked to Haru, pronounced Haru, the word for hawk in the phonetic rendering of the Egyptian hieroglyphs, but also been said to connote the distant one and the one who is over or above. Certainly the latter two translations may be applied to the hawk, who may be seen to appear on the horizon and transit the sky in its flight, but might they also refer to the planets in their transit. Alright? And blood and gods, goddesses of the universe. Spirit beings do not become invisible until 0.6 west, turning counterclockwise on the circle of order. See figure 6 in part 2 of this volume. All gods and goddesses, such as the sun, earth, and moon, are bird-like by nature in the sense that they are in flight or in the air at all times. It is a matter of fact that spirit beings are bird-like and air-like, and that the universe or world soul is all life, light, and energies, including all spirit beings in the universe at any given time, and is the order of the universe and creator and controller of the universe together with the laws and cycles of nature. Let it be remembered, always let it be known. Nature, Book 1, page 197 in part. Ra Harakti, a combined god of Horus and Ra. The name translates to Horus of the horizon and is represented by a man with a hawk head adorned with a crown decorated with a sun disk that represent Ra. Listen to the reasons of Satuna and Jutar collectively. The word Ra Harakti was myself, Jutar, and Satuna, Saturn titles merged together in ancient times. We are mentioned throughout 9 signs. Let us show you. Amenubi equals Amun equals the hidden in reference to the spirit, sun gases inside, and that many people don't know we are suns in plain sight. Nubi equals Nubian or an African male from Nubia. Ra equals sun, 2 suns, Satuna and myself, Jupiter, Amun Re. Ak is spirit, Ka is spirit, because they both are gases. Remember that spirit and gas are interchangeable. Jupiter and Saturn are gas planets or spirit producing planets. Alright, so Ak and Ka is there as well. Ta is a name for African people in Noone as well as our ancestors in NoopooH. We, Satuna, myself, named Afro Unu back then. Amun Re is also one of my Jupiter titles. Re and Ak equals hidden in sun and gases, Ak, spirit, and hieroglyphs. And Satuna is the Harak sound in Ra Harak. It's the hawk or Akka, a Ptah, that became Horus in English. It was Satuna and myself and Jupiter and Afro Unu together 6,000 years ago in the Garden of Eden or Aden story when he ruled Africa, Asia, and Europe. His name was pronounced a little different, but you can tell it's the same titles. Listen to reason. Let's take a look at the setting of the Garden of Eden, Africa, and Asia 6,000 years ago. Pantheism, including Sabianism, was a ruling spiritual science, and the head of the pantheon was 4 main gods. So people were talking about the gods instead of one god. The main spirit gods were the sun god, right? Which we know that it's 2 in 1. They just got it as sun god, but Satuna and Jutar makes 1. Then you had the earth god, the moon god, and the underworld god. But if you count them in reality, it's 5. But they were combined as a sun god. That's why he got spirit gods. We talking about the spirit gods because that's what they are. They're gases, balls of gases, hydrogen and helium. All right. Underworld god and their consort goddess, the king of the Garden of Eden, was a reincarnation of the lion god Re Harakti, also called Hamakis, and Epidemic, who is statued by the Great Sphinx at Giza, Egypt, and Africa. Some leading adherents, like priests and nuns of King Amenubi, the reincarnation of the sun god Re Harakti, were required to maintain celibacy, abstinence from marriage, and sexual pleasure similar to of Roman Catholic priests and nuns of today. At this writing, abstinence from sexual pleasure for the sake of morality and public well-being. Let it be remembered, always let it be. Listen to sound right, Jutar's reason. Notice the title, King Amenubi, the Nubian Nubi, Ethiopian man. Then notice our Satuna, Saturn, myself, Jutar, Jupiter's name together as Ray, Horok, T. We send Afro-Unu every 6,000 years before a cycle at its beginning and ending. In a 118 million year section of evolution is 3,000 sun and moon cycles together. 1,500 are sun cycles and 1,500 are moon cycles. We all are in Earth's 3,000 sun cycle. The same way Afro-Unu had his help 6,000 years ago, the 2,999 cycle, he Unu had help all the way back to the beginning, 18 million years ago. Of the sun god Rehorak, the king Abanubu, who was the reincarnation of the god Rehorakti, knew what had occurred by spirit and mental telepathy, as well as having been told, and he did visit the temples of Ptah, the father of all, for verification and confirmation. King Abanubi and many of his Sabius helpers were members of the Ethiopian race. Let it be remembered. Nature, Book 2, page 129 in part. In other words, Ptah, Kinoo, Unu, NoopooH was also there with his present-day kins as the second backup, as Satuna is my Jutar, Jupiter's backup as the second sun throughout time. Many of you will be offended as Ptah Kinoo's status, but that is his destiny, and he has proven to be the most dedicated, and this is a fact you all have witnessed. Let us make it known, his added letters Unu to his name Kinoo was just given to him at 11:49 a.m. at the time of this writing. This does not mean he is Afro-Unu, because Unu is now NoopooH in the future. It means he is the one now who is NoopooH's second in rank, as is Satuna is the second son behind myself, being Ptah Kinoo Unu is a Capricorn sent by Satuna, while Afro-Unu was first sent by me, Jupiter, who rules Sagittarius, of which Afro-Unu was always born under my sign. The same way Ptah Kinoo Unu was always born a Capricorn. You jealous distorters of Noone signs will face justice karma for the evils and wrongs you have done to delay and lie on both of these great messengers of Noone signs, who did it strictly for the love of self and kind. Everything that both of our messengers have declared judgment and karma on all of you who have suffered and will continue to suffer for the deeds rendered against NoopooH, and by extension those who propagate Noone science past February 5th, 2025 AD. Unu was always in Kinoo's name, and it wasn't known to him or you. The same way NoopooH isn't spelled in Afro-Unu's last name, but you know he has it. Just because he didn't write it in the books doesn't mean it's not present. The same way you all couldn't see us, the Eni had 9 orbs inside Kinoo Unu, doesn't mean we were not there. LOL. The time has come to show the Ethiopian races their former glory and to accept Noone science and their open connection to us, the orbs. But you must pass the capability test, as our favorite niece, Tarbuna NoopooH, says, who Marsha Mars loves, by the way. Keep up the good work, girl. Stay tuned for part 3. Trim it to calm and peace and wartime.